Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. It has been a while since I've been here. Work has been busy. I have been traveling extensively for work, which I don't mind at all. I truly love my job, but it has taken me a little bit away from recording these. I will try to do better, but that's not a guarantee. So here I am on a Monday evening. I am exhausted, but I wanted to get this video, and my house is quiet enough right now that I can do this. So here I am bringing you a video, and today we're going to talk about how to budget for the month if you have multiple pay periods. But what's unique about this particular video, I know that I have done quite a few in the past, but what's different about this video is I'm going to show you what it looks like when you have a paycheck that you need to help cover you or carry you over into the next month. So I'm going to give you an example of what that would look like and how you would budget. So if that's something you're interested in and you're on a debt-free journey, or you're trying to start budgeting and you don't know where to start, then continue watching, because there's a lot of good information in here. I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible because, like I said earlier, it is very late and I am exhausted. So let's get this done, and I am hopeful that I can get this posted tonight. I am not sure, but you'll get this week sometime. But the most important thing was to get it recorded. Anyhow, I'm going to walk you through some instruments that I'll be using, and I'm using my little trusted highlighters here. You guys know that I've used these in the past, and they are tried and true. They work for me. They worked for me in the past, so you don't need anything fancy. Just some highlighters if you're into that, which I do recommend. Just a couple of writing instruments. I have a pen here. I am really enjoying this Pilot Precise V5. I'm really enjoying this one. It's black. I usually only write with black ink, but it doesn't smear and it doesn't get on my pinky or my palm because I'm a lefty, and it dries very quickly. So this is a good pen. And then, you know, just a pencil and an eraser. I am a separate pencil eraser girl. You guys know this, but just some really basic instruments and a calculator. I got all of this on Amazon, by the way. Actually, this was something I had in my stationery stash. I bought these many years ago, but I pulled them out when I started doing these videos. And then you have a little calculator here, just very old school, very basic. I'm a pen to paper or pencil to paper budgeter. If you are a digital budgeter, this could work too. You just need to get a couple of items and you should be good to go. So we are going to talk about May. I know that May is already in full swing, but you can carry this over into June, and you know, it'll work. It'll work for any month, because chances are you will have, if not every month, a paycheck that you get paid in maybe the second to last Friday of the month, and that paycheck is going to go into the following month. So this will still apply. Let me clear my throat real quick. Hold on. Excuse me. All right. So we are going to talk May. And for the purpose of this video, for this example, we are saying that for May, we have two paychecks. Paycheck number one is in the amount of $4,000, and paycheck number two is also in the amount of $4,000. So the total amount of income for the full month of May, we're saying, is $8,000. All right, so we're going to use this as a guide, and I'm just going to put this here because we will be referencing that in the video, throughout the video. And then I want to talk a little bit about emergency funds and how I came up with my emergency funds number. So I am also going to keep this handy here to reference it when we get to that point. Okay, so here I am using my trusted worksheets from the Budget Mom. She has quite a few free printables on her website. The exchange is that you have to provide an email address, which is only fair. But she has a ton of free printables. So I would encourage you to go check her out, go check out her website and see what she has. I believe this monthly budget, I purchased this as a digital download. So as a digital download, I can print this in this color. I can also print it in black and white, and I can use it endlessly because the PDF is now mine. I purchased it about 2 years ago. I want to say it was less than $3 for the digital PDF, and I have used it consistently. So it was well worth the $3 that she charged. So anyway, that's just an FYI. Okay. So here we have, right? We said we have two forms of income or two sources of income for the month. We have two pay periods, and you want to make sure that you capture that on your monthly budget. And so in here we have income source number one is 4,000, income source number two is 3,500. You have a bonus income of 500, bringing your total $1,000 to $8,000 for the full month of May. I have a video where I am breaking it down by paycheck. We are kind of doing it by paycheck. It's just for the full month. So stay with me here. The first thing you want to do is you want to itemize all of the bills that you have. And I love the Budget Mom worksheets because they are simple and straight to the point. She has 4 major categories. Fixed expenses. Your fixed expenses are those expenses that the amounts really don't fluctuate much, only by a couple cents, maybe $1 or $2 throughout the month, but they stay pretty static for the entire month. Those are your fixed expenses. You know what you're going to pay month to month. The next category is your variable expenses. Your variable expenses vary month to month. These amounts fluctuate quite a bit. So it depends on what you have going on personally, any events that you have going on, if you have to travel for work, right? Just a lot of different variables. That is what goes in here. I have put on here some really high level major categories. This is not my personal budget. It's just for example purposes, but I wanted to bring it to your attention and so give you an idea and some kind of inspiration of what type of categories would go into these sections here. And then down here, we have a section for debt. Your debt can be credit cards, student loans, whatever debt you have. And I did credit cards as a general subject here. But if you have this digital download or you have a similar download of a monthly budget, I encourage you not to do this. I encourage you to actually list out all of your credit cards because you want that visual. They're not all due at the same time. They're not all due the same day of the month. So it's important that your budget sheet reflects what you have in your home and what's happening in your area, right? This is just an example and a guide to motivate and to help you. But for the purpose of this video, to keep things very simple and very short and sweet, I just combined all credit cards. I'm saying that all credit cards, the total amount combined that I am paying in the month of May is $800. And then for savings, savings can be emergency, it can be regular savings, it can be savings challenges. It can be a number of things here, right? The idea is that you capture it because ultimately you want to get to a zero-based budget. A zero-based budget means that you are giving every single dollar a job. If you don't give it a job, it will get spent and you won't know where it went. So it's important that you take these $8,000 and that you give it a category and a job, even if that means that it goes into miscellaneous. Your miscellaneous shouldn't be super large, but if you have $100 left over after you've allocated all of your money, this is a good spot to put it in if you want to, or you can just take that money and put it into something, into savings or towards credit card debt. Again, this is just a guide. And so here for emergency savings, for my emergency funds, Dave Ramsey talks about an emergency fund. And he said, you know, you should start with $2,000. That can fluctuate. And for me, I take an emergency savings very seriously. And for us here in our home, I want to have 6 months worth of all of my expenses for full 6 months. So God forbid something happens and, you know, I lose my job or my husband loses his job or something else more severe happens. I want to have that security and I don't want to have that stress of not having enough funds to keep our 4 walls up and keep us sustained throughout that hardship. And so for savings, let me give you an example since we're on this subject of what that would look like and why this amount is so high. So for savings, what I did was I thought about what are those things that in my home we need to sustain ourselves? What are the things that we need? Not that we want, but we need. So we need our home, right? You need your four walls. We need our car. Cable internet is questionable, right? That's not a need, that's a want. And so I didn't put a dot. So anything that has a dot next to it is what I have taken into consideration as to what I want to save in total for my emergency funds. So again, you have to pick the categories that are important to you and that you can live with should something happen. So cell phones we definitely need because nobody really has landlines anymore. Gas and electric, water and sewer, car insurance, gas, groceries, car maintenance. You need to continue to pay on your student loans, and you need to continue to pay on those credit cards. They don't go away because you have a hardship. However, on a side note, if you have experienced any kind of hardship, you can always call these institutions, let them know what your hardship is, and they will work with you for a payment plan, or they will, forego any interest charges or any late fees. But you would have to work with your individual institutions for that. So that's an idea for you as well. So even something like a car payment or car insurance, I can call them and I will let them know something has happened, and we will work and we will conversate to see what does that look like? What does hardship for that particular institution looks like, and what can they do for me, and what's available to me as a consumer. So if I take all of these categories that have these dots at the value in which you see them here, those totals equal $4,550 per month. This is what I'm saying I need month to month to sustain myself should I experience a hardship. I need this in my emergency fund no matter what. And so if I want to save $4,550 and my savings, my emergency fund is for 3 months, then that means that total that I need to save, that I should have in my emergency fund, is $13,650. And when you're looking at a budget like this, first, you should always put money towards your emergency fund. That should get funded first. Then you can work on credit cards, student loans, and all the other things. But you need to make sure you have your emergency savings up to par. So however way this works for you, if whatever number it is, then that's how you apply it to the budget sheet. I just wanted to give you an example of what that would look like and how you can come up with an emergency fund amount. All right. So that's what these dots represent. So we are saying that these are the amounts that we need for the month of May, and these are the categories that we need to apply for each month. I love to use a calendar. That is that was my saving grace, because I'm a visual learner and I needed something in my face that kept me on target and allowed me to make sure that I used my money appropriately. And that's where a good handy dandy calendar comes in. And yes, it's very colorful because I am a visual learner. And this will also help you if you are new to budgeting and you're just not sure where to start. This is a good way to start. It's simple, it's easy, and it's pretty much in your face, all right? And what I did was I just took the major categories. Let me move this over. I just took the major categories that you see here, over here, and I gave them a color. And then what I did was I went in with my little trusted highlighters and I made sure that I carried that color throughout all of my documentation. So here I have the colors. I did a little legend up here to keep me on target so that I knew what color meant what. And then when I went in and put in the categories with the amounts, after I entered everything in, I wrote everything in, I went back in and I highlighted it. So here is another key takeaway when you are putting together a monthly budget. It is important that you pay your bills and your categories at least a week ahead. right? Some institutions take several business days to actually clear the funds or for processing time. So you want to make sure that you give yourself that time to do that. So what I do is I look at my statements and I take the due date and I back that out by a week, sometimes 2 weeks, because you want to pay your bills ahead of time. You don't want to pay them on their due date. So if my mortgage is due on the 1st of June, I don't want to pay it this week because chances are it won't make it, because see how the 1st is on a Saturday? Well, institutions aren't open on Saturday, so they're not going to process that payment on Saturday. And by the time they process it in June, technically it's going to be late, right? Because June, the first Monday of June is June 3rd, but your amount is due on the 1st. And this is why a calendar is so helpful when you are trying to budget. So if you want this to arrive by the 1st, do you really want to pay it this week? That's probably a little bit funky. Do you really want to pay it this week? Well, you're now into the last few days of this first paycheck. Are you going to have those funds? So when you're doing a budget and you're using a calendar, you say, if this is due on the 1st, I think I want to use this paycheck to pay the mortgage. And so if you pay it on here, it will definitely get there before the 1st. But you've already given this $4,000 a job by making sure that your mortgage gets paid on that Monday. And how does this look like on the monthly budget sheet? What I used to do was I would go in on the mortgage and I would put on here the date that I want to pay it. So I start with this. I sit down, I write everything down, I write the amounts, and then I make sure that when I do my math, that it equals $8,000. And so the dates will vary. I'm going to go in and I'm going to say on the 13th, I want to pay the mortgage. So I'll just make a little notation here. I don't want to get out of focus. And there you see where I put 5/13. So you do this. You put this in the little column here and you put the amounts in which you want to pay them, not the dates that they're due. That's important. And so you also, when you're doing a monthly budget and you're working with variable expenses, when you're thinking about variable expenses, I am not going to take out $200 out of one paycheck. You don't have to, right? Because you have many weeks in the month. So this $200 is for the month. I need $50 of gas a week for the month. So what you want to do is you want to take your calendar and you want to plot your gas. I usually fill up on Sundays, and here you see where I have gas for 4 weeks. I don't have it here because this is from the previous week's check. So this does not apply. This is from the April 28th or whatever date that was. That's where this $50 came from. So we are starting with the first point of the paycheck, and that is for paycheck number 1 that was paid on the 10th. When I am doing a monthly calendar, the first thing that goes on here is the legend and then my income sources. I always put them on here first. I then go back to my sheet. I put down dates. I know kind of what I want to save up for the month. And all of these numbers, you're either going to divide it by 4 for equal amounts, or you're going to figure out where to plot them on the calendar. Show you what that looks like. So here we're saying we need $200 for gas. Well, you have 50, 50, 50, and you have another 50 here for June 2nd. For groceries, we're saying we need $500. Well, groceries, I do groceries on Saturdays. So here I have Saturdays for $125, and you see them throughout the month here. Okay? Eating out, if you see lunch, coffee, here's my lunch. I have all of my lunch scheduled out. Eating out, this is why calendars are so great, because here you have eating out on Mother's Day. Well, if you've allocated $600 for the month, you will be spending a little more on Mother's Day for eating out. Maybe you go out for Mother's Day brunch, and so you're going to spend a little bit of more money. So instead of breaking this evenly, right? And so instead of saying I'm going to use $200 every week, for Mother's Day I'm going to use 200. The next week I'm not going to spend 200 because I haven't allocated those funds. I am going to make sure that we stay at $100. Maybe this day is going to look like pizza and some wings and call it a night. So you work with the funds and you work with the dates, but understanding that a calendar is a good guide that will show you exactly how much you want to spend on that given week or that given day. In these categories, I've added 2 new ones. I've added gifts and self-care. It's Mother's Day. I want to go get my nails done. So I'm adding $50 of self-care here for me to get my appointment, to get my nails done. I also want to buy a couple of gifts. So I've allocated an additional $150 to my budget to buy gifts for Mother's Day. You guys following me? So you want to take all of these amounts. The goal is everything you plot, you want to make sure that all of these amounts equal $8,000. So it's going to require a lot of erasing, a lot of going back and forth. You can see here the mistakes that I made. And this isn't even a real budget. This is just me trying to build this example for you. And I already made a lot of mistakes because it took a lot of fluctuation, a lot of movement of the money and the amounts. That will happen in real life as well. So give yourself some grace, give yourself some time, but I guarantee you that you will enjoy it and you will see the benefits. And you won't stress about not having enough money because, you take your check, you overspend, and then you're trying to just really button down and trying to figure out, oh, maybe I can just send them $50 this week and I'll send them $50 again next week for the 100 gas and electric. No, my friends, there is no need for that. You can take your full income for that pay period and give every single account a job, okay? So we have student loans. Student loans here, we're going to pay $500. And then credit cards, here's the $800 for credit cards. And so you see how I've allocated those funds over here. But let's talk about emergency savings, our last category. We're saying we want to save $2,000 in the month of May. We want to save $2,000 for emergency savings. Well, after I did all of the math here, I didn't have an extra $2,000 for savings, but I did have $500. So here for pay period number 1, I am going to put towards my savings $500. And then in pay period number 2, because I don't have my mortgage in pay period number 2, I can then put the other $1,500 towards my savings funds out of paycheck number 2. Let's talk about how this looks when it carries over into the following month. Let me do this here. So I already gave you the example of mortgage. If you send your payment to get there by the 1st, it's a weekend, it will not get processed until this day, which makes it a delinquent payment, and you don't want that on your credit report. We're trying to get out of debt, and we're trying to improve our score, and we're trying to do all the great things. So you don't want to do that. You want to make sure that you have put into your monthly list. You want to make sure that all of your categories are on the months, because it's never going to tie month to month, right? How am I going to say this? You will always have a month in which this last pay period will carry over into the new month. That's more likely than not. So I wanted to show you an example of what that would look like, okay? And so for maintenance, for car maintenance, let's say you're due for an oil change to get ready for the summer. Well, I couldn't afford the $100 in pay period number 1, but I knew I wanted to pay it in pay period number 2. And so for the month of June, I am now covered with car maintenance, okay? For lawn service, if you have lawn service, we do. you take that amount that you would pay them per week for the month, or if you want to give them a lump sum, as we do for the month, then you allocate the funds for that. And you make sure that you put that on here, because this is the day that it's due, right? This is the day that you have to pay your lawn service. And that's pretty much it. This is pretty much your entire budget for the month of May. When you add calendars, you add a nice little budget tracker. And when months carry over from one into the next, or the pay periods carry over, this is when the calendars are super helpful and they are a good visual. Let me also talk about here the colors. The area that will always get us into a pickle are these oranges. Okay, they will always get us into a pickle. Why? Because they fluctuate and things creep up. So it's important that you really hone in on those orange categories, on those variable expenses, because you want to make sure that you capture them here. So when you put this on your wall, or you put it in your binder and you just want to reference it and go, oh, what's due? Let me see what's due. Yellow is your debt. That's going to stand out. The blue are your fixed income, your fixed expenses. So you know that the blue is, you have to pay these things. These are things that are part of your four walls to keep it up, right? So you want to make sure that you are allocating funds to these blue categories. This is why a calendar is so super helpful. I know I enjoy it. You can go with any color you want. You can do whatever color scheme you want, but it's important that you see it visually on a calendar, so that you, like the example with the mortgage, you think you're doing the right thing, but guess what? If you paid on the 29th, they need 3 business days to process. 1, 2, 3 business days, you're late. And it's never a good thing to be late on your mortgage, okay? I'm speaking from experience. So make sure that you know when your bills are due, backdate from that date, and then you can plot that on the calendar on the day that you actually want to pay it. This is my video. I really do hope that you've enjoyed this. You know, guys, we're all in this together. We're all in this journey of trying to figure out how to make our money work for us versus us working for the money. No one is exempt from that. And so whatever I can do to help, I will come and share the experiences and the tips and techniques that have worked for me to get us out of almost $90,000 in debt. So I'm more than happy to share that information with you and share those tips with you. I hope that you've enjoyed this. I hope that you have, really walked away learning a little bit more. I just noticed something that I forgot to do. So before I finish this video, we need to make sure that the total expenses is $8,000. We're saying income is $8,000. So if we take all these categories and total them up, let me zoom in a little bit. Yeah, let's total all of these up. We're saying it equals $2,800, and we're going to do that for every single category. So here we have 1,900, 2,800 plus 1,900 plus 1,300 plus 2,000, and there you have it. You want to add each category because your end balance, remember, this is a zero-based budget. So this equals here should always be 0. And this is why I love to use pencil, because you will be erasing a lot. You will be moving things around, because ultimately this is the goal of this process. How do I know? Because I've lived it, and it's important to give every single dollar a job. You will not regret it. Your credit score will go up. You will feel better. It will have less stress on your life. You will feel like you've added about 10 years to your life, because financial distress is real, and it can create havoc in your health, in your life, in your marriage, in your relationships. And so I hope that this has helped you and that you walked away with a little bit of something extra in terms of how to budget your money and how to budget your income from one month into the next, because it's important that you do. All right, friends, that is all that I have for you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much for your patience. I appreciate you. And until the next one, adios.